Welcome back to News Centre. Flight cancellations at India's largest airline, Indigo, leave passengers stranded for the third consecutive day. Close to 350 flights were cancelled by afternoon at 4 major airports alone. The Civil Aviation Minister has now summoned Indigo and other stakeholders from Delhi to Mumbai to Bengaluru to Hyderabad. Chaos erupted at airports as passengers clashed with Indigo officials. Many took to social media to share their ordeal. Indigo cited a multitude of unforeseen operational challenges, including technology glitches and updated crew rostering rules. However, Pilots Association claimed that Indigo's prolonged unorthodox lean manpower strategy is the reason behind current flight disruptions. They accused the airline of cartel-like behavior and short-sighted planning despite a 2-year window to prepare for new crew rostering rules. So what are these new rules? The second and final phase of the rules were implemented last month. Under the new rules, the weekly rest period for pilots has been increased to 48 hours and 36 hours, and night landings have been limited to 2 from 6 earlier. All right, we discussed this. Captain Randhawa, President of the Federation of Indian Pilots, and former Air India Executive Director Jitendra Bhargava. Mr. Bhargava, how do you see this crisis that the Indian airline industry has been facing for the last 3 days? The airlines had a lot of time. They almost had 1.5 years to prepare for this. So why go down to the wire? Who do you think is accountable? And how soon can all this be put back on track?
Will have to stop at the Indigo management. You're very right that the DGCA had come in with the new regulations quite some time ago. Indigo management did have adequate time to work for it, like other airlines. If DGCA new regulation was the cause of this large-scale cancellation, we would have also witnessed cancellation by Air India. So that is really not a factor. It is lack of planning on the part of Indigo that is responsible for the cancellation, large-scale disruption, chaos at the airport, fares shooting up. I was just told by a passenger traveling from Mumbai to Dehradun, the fare on Indigo is 74,000 rupees, as against the fare of only 17,000 on Mumbai-Dubai. So you look at the kind of crisis. So what Indigo management in a statement had given, multitude of reasoning that this is possible, that is possible, etc. Irrespective of what are the reasons, shouldn't the Indigo management come forth and put it in public domain the causes of the likely disruption that will take place? Got on to the other airlines to say, let's have a collective effort. We are going to have a severe crisis here. You can't leave passengers at the mercy. And let's not also forget, we are getting a clear message this time that don't allow one single airline to have a market share of 2/3 of the domestic market. If you have a crisis, like you named the airports, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Mumbai, Delhi, etc., they're all major airports, metro airports, where Indigo has a large number of flights. Now, you can't really, and mind you, at certain airports like Pune, etc., even Air India flights have got impacted, not because of Air India own reason, because of the congestion due to Indigo's flight delays. So what we are witnessing is unprecedented. We've had kind of problems, but they were primarily natural problems, say the visibility issues at the Delhi airport, Northern India, fog, etc., etc. But to say 5 large airports, 350 plus cancellation, going on for the third day, I don't know how many of the traveling public would believe the Indigo statement that they are expecting the stabilization in the airline operation by tomorrow.
All right, let me go across to Captain Randhawa, President of the Federation of Indian Pilots. Captain Randhawa, we've been seeing how different pilot associations have been saying that enough time was given to the airlines. This roster should have been adjusted at least 15 to 20 days in advance. It wasn't done till the last moment, and perhaps the airline was thinking that they'll manage to get another extension. How long do you think will it take for an airline like Indigo to set the roster right and increase the number of crew that they require for these kind of operations and this level of operations that they undertake?
Okay, let me put some facts and figures. I agree with what Mr. Jitendra Bhargava has just mentioned. And I'll further add to that. Indigo at present, they're operating approximately 2,200 flights plus, close to 2,300 flights a day. It was operating every day. And it has got close to 5,800 to 6,000 pilots. highest pilot body strength in the country, out of which at least 40 to 45% are captains. So if you add that a pilot flies 900 hours a year into the number of captains they have, and you add that approximately 320 aircraft are flying for Indigo into 14 hours daily utilization into 365 days, you will come to know that there is hardly any shortage of captains. There could be some bit. The increase has been due to 6% increase in the schedule which has been approved by DGCA for Indigo Airlines in the winter schedule, which came effective on 1st of November. Now, from 1st of November, just see the sequence of action. The second phase of the FDTL CAR was implemented due to the order of the High Court, and next day, Indigo and other airlines, including Air India, went running to DGCA to take dispensations. And 4 dispensations were granted, including one increase in the night landing, which was given by DGCA. Now, this CAR, the airlines were given 2.5 years. They circumvented, did not allow the CAR to be implemented. The commercial interests of the country were had taken precedence over the safety factors, and it was not being implemented. We approached the High Court, and we are happy that the High Court gave an order, and the first phase was implemented on 1st of July, and that is for the weekly rest and all that was coming in the first half. In the second half of the agreement, the CR was implemented on 1st of November. Then dispensations given. Now imagine there were no cancellations whatsoever of Indigo flight or delays in the month of November. Next thing, 28th of November, EASA and Airbus industry come out with a emergency advisory where the software upgrade had to be taken place on 29th and 30th of November. And from 28th of November till 5:30 in the morning on 30th, all aircraft were modified by Indigo. Not a single flight cancellation, not a single flight delay. What has cascaded in last 2 days? I will tell you. It is a total failure on the airline system, the crew rostering, the network planning. Both are responsible for this total mess. Media has been quoting it wrongly. There is no weather. There is no fog even in Srinagar and Leh. Forget about Delhi. And
That's
Delhi
true.
and all
right.
these
So complete mismanagement when it comes to handling the roster. Let me get it. Okay, sir.
One sec. Let me. Secondly, they are talking about congestion at the airports. This congestion is same. Bombay is already doing 1,036 flights. It was doing that even 1 year back. Same is Delhi, same is Bangalore, Calcutta, everywhere. There is no change. There is a total failure on the management of Indigo. That is the answer.
Okay.
And less.
All right. Let me get in Mr. Jitendra Bhargava at this point. Mr. Bhargava, there's been a lot of anger outpouring on social media with people saying there is cartelization just because there are 1 or 2 airlines dominating the space. Airlines are acting in this manner. Now, what should the government now do to prevent such situations in the future? What role does the DGCA need to play over here in order to rectify things?
You know, it is very unfortunate that this has happened because Indigo is a dominant player. But the government role, I must say, is very little here. You really can't blame it because Indigo, by default, has been able to increase its market share gradually. When Kingfisher collapsed, it took bulk of Kingfisher passengers. When Jet Airways collapsed, it took on further. Go First collapsed, it added more passengers and reached the mark of 60% plus. Now, what can DGCA do? They came out with a new regulation, gave them time. When airlines sought extension, they gave them extension. Now, there is really no reason why the Indigo management has faltered here. Captain Randhawa is absolutely on spot to say that they had time to do it. There was no cancellation in the month of November. Why has it happened? Now, question comes in, did they have a dialogue with the pilots or did they continue with it? Because having worked for an airline, I can say airlines maintain a very stoic silence in these kind of issues. when they knew it, perhaps on the 30th or the 1st, that there is going to be an impending crisis in the next few days because the crew shortage has not erupted suddenly. So if one to come in public domain, it would have soothed the passengers' ire. They are very angry for the simple reason they reach the airport, get no information, only about the delays, uncertainty of the flights, etc. And when they buy a ticket on an alternate airline, it's a very heavy price to pay. Now,
Captain Randhawa?
India, Indigo do? Just one point. Indigo should come out some clean public statement, what happened, why it happened, and when do they expect the stability to come in. That will be an assuring fact for the traveling public who have been badly mauled in the last few days.
Okay. Captain Randhawa, very briefly, the Pilots Association, the Federation of Indian Pilots have said that the current disruption is a direct consequence of Indigo's prolonged and unorthodox lean manpower strategy across operations, especially in-flight operations. What changes do you expect Indigo to now make, or do you feel they will have to make to put things back on track?
First of all, as I have said, they have to rework on the network planning and on the cruise scheduling or rostering, which they do. If they have come out with a new system, like if you remember a couple of months back, last year, April, Air India shifted from ARMS to CAE, and there was total chaos. There were delays, there were cancellations, because when you adopt a new system of crew rostering, you have to overlap with the old system. The second part is I feel there has been a change in the network planning, the planning of the aircraft, how the movement of the aircraft will move and how the pilot's rostering is dovetailing into it. So there has been failure in both these accounts. I said there is a contributory factor of the 6% increase in the flight schedules, which could have led to some shortage of captains. But now the mitigation factors are that they have to train more captains, which they have been training very less captains from first officers. They have to recruit more captains because some of their captains have left for Gulf. So they have to see what is the shortfall. It is plain, simple mathematics, and I'm sending a detailed letter to the Minister of Civil Aviation and to the DG. I'm in the process of writing it, and I shall be sending it by tonight.
All right, Captain Randhawa, Jitendra Bhargava, thank you very much for joining us on the program, giving us a very comprehensive overview and analysis on one big issue, problem plaguing the Indian airline sector right now, and the customers are very, very bothered by what's happening. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of News Center. More news and updates when we return.